Very good evening and a warm welcome to Asikhulume. Let's talk, the show where you get to have your say on the issues of the day. Tonight we're talking workers' issues in light of the wave of strikes that is currently gripping the nation. And the question we're asking tonight is, are workers' demands for double-digit wage increases realistic? And our guests tonight, we are joined in studio to help us discuss tonight's question. We are joined by Irvin Jim. He is the General Secretary of the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa, NUMSA. Mr. Jim, good evening and thank you for joining us.
Good evening.
We also have Hart, who is an economist at Investment Solutions. Chris, good evening and thank you for joining us.
Good evening, thank you.
And we are also joined by Gerhard Papenfus. He is the Chief Executive of the National Employers Association of South Africa. They represent about 18,000 employers across 80 economic sectors. Mr. Papenfus, good evening and thank you for joining. Mr. Jim, good evening. Just to get the discussion started, there's been developments this afternoon in as far as the strike in the metal and engineering sectors is concerned. Give us an update.
Well, Thulasizwe, we addressed the press conference this afternoon. We announced the end of the strike because out of 9 provinces, 8 provinces actually accepted our recommendation for settlement on the basis of the revised offer that was with us on the table on Wednesday. However, one of the things that we want to say was to condemn an opportunistic stance taken by employers of jumping the gun, manipulating the process of consultation, which nearly undermined democratic processes because an impression was created that we have signed, when in fact there was no such. All what happened, there was an agreement which we said to employers we'll consider, take it to our own structures, and that's what we did. We considered that. Having considered it, we felt it must go down to our own members. Secondly, we want to thank our members for demonstration of unity during this difficult time. However, we also know that there were, for instance, one region which had serious challenges which was not ready to accept, and one local in the Eastern Cape, Port Elizabeth,
sure,
and one local in Kuruleni. And as union leadership and the national executive, we have said, look, in the light of democratic centralism, we're appealing to our own members to accept the final decision,
right,
which is the majority.
Very briefly, Mr. Jim, give us a sense, what did you eventually settle on compared to what you were demanding?
Well, we demanded 13%. We settled on 10% for now. And next year, there will be 8%. Of course, if CPI falls below 8%, workers will get 8. If it's at 8, workers will get 2% improvement factor. If it's above 8, it's 9, they will get 2% improvement factor. That's what we receive on wages. You would remember that we wanted a two-year agreement. However, employers stick to their guns. We felt that they must buy it and improve it so that moving forward, workers can have some form of security. So
in the end, there was compromise and you ended up settling with a three-year
yes,
agreement. Mr. Papenfus, what's your reaction as employers in this sector to this agreement that was announced today by the National Union of Metal Workers?
Well, it's a huge disappointment, and you'll find it strange that I say that because we're a party in this council. We are the single biggest employees organization in this bargaining council, but we did not accept this agreement. I think this agreement is a disaster for employers, especially medium and small employers. Mr. Jim talked about democratic processes. The manner in which this agreement was obtained is a scandal, with respect.
What don't you accept about it,
well,
the manner that it was obtained?
First of all, we went into these negotiations as an organization with a very principled view. We were never reluctant to discuss wage increases. I believe workers deserve that. But we went into these negotiations with a principled view that we need to talk about job creation, and we needed to make this industry more flexible. The inflexibility of this industry is killing employers. You cannot manage a business by remote control, and that's what this Industry Bargaining Council is doing. So that was a principal approach that we had.
Right.
And when they didn't like it, they simply went behind our backs NUMSA and the Federation SIFSA, they went behind our backs and struck a deal.
We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. I see a fascinating discussion brewing here. But let me bring in Mr. Hart here. Chris, we saw that insert we just played there. I mean, a lot of it was in Zulu, but basically it was highlighting the plight of a worker in this particular sector that we are talking about. You know, the difficulties they have meeting their day-to-day demands. Yeah. But you are quoted in a recent article describing the demands that the unions in this country start off with as being stuck in the dark ages, and saying if they continue with that approach, you said it's the most incredible national suicide. Do you still stand by that?
And employers, it's the very dark ages, because effectively, how on earth do we get as a country a 2-week strike in the context where the global economy may well go into depression? It's sort of teetering on the brink at this stage. Joblessness is a global problem. Okay, it's not that South Africa is unique, that we just happen to have a particularly high level of joblessness. Countries are scratching and competing for investment to actually try and resolve these things of joblessness. This strike issue dealt none of the plight of the unemployed was ever discussed with this, and we understand that workers are there. We end up with an inflation plus kind of agreement. That's exactly what it is. I want to know, all right, if we ever want to aspire to the level that the Japanese are paid, or the Germans or Americans are paid, how inflation plus agreements will ever get us there. It traps us in poverty, all right? And management must sit there giggling because they get paid on performance, all right, and manage to get, well, the workers settled on 10%. They'll get 15, 20, 30% increases because they get paid on performance. So I look at this and say, the labour laws have failed in a number of ways. Firstly, that strikes have become a routine part of this, that the national emergency, in my opinion, is poverty and unemployment, and the unemployed basically are victims in this particular arrangement, because this is an industry-wide agreement that sticks it in the eye for small business. Anyway, we can carry on. If
you can hold that thought, we'll come back to that, certainly. And I can't imagine that you would face a lot of disagreement from COSATU-affiliated unions in as far as the issue of unemployment and poverty, the challenges there. Coming back to you, Mr. Jim, are you surprised at what you're hearing this evening? I mean, you know, the impression we had was that you have an agreement and everyone is happy, but it would seem the Employers Association is not happy.
Look, I think we're very clear that there is a small group of employers within SIFSA who basically remind us of the olden days, where there has been a bashing attitude against union with an intention to scuttle the bargaining council. And I guess there are major challenges that all loving South Africans who came through the history, who understood that the hostility against trade union has not worked. You can try to break the bargaining council, but we'll still drag you back there. At least in South Africa, we don't have low levels of consciousness of the working people. Now, there is an attempt by this grouping of employers represented here tonight to try and collapse the bargaining council. They ran away from engaging with the rest of other employers. And the rest of other employers, because, as you know, the bosses are never homogeneous. The rest of other employers have moved ahead, they have negotiated, and we didn't negotiate with the employers under the carpet. The agreement we've reached, we are going to fight tooth and nail that no employer in this industry who have benefited in the past will benefit to the stability that this agreement will bring, who will not comply with this particular agreement.
Mr. Papenfus, are you trying to collapse the bargaining council? If you can respond to that, but also throw in the crux of your unhappiness, the way I understand it, is about the implementation of the agreement. That is,
First of all, we're not part of SIFSA. That we must make clear. We're not a grouping within SIFSA. We outside of SIFSA. Secondly, SIFSA consists, the bargaining council consists out of 33 organizations. We represent 36% of those employers. So that is the single largest employers organization. So you can't call us a small grouping. In fact, our approach is extremely progressive. The unemployed has no say in this council. This council, this industry is in this depression, recession, lost 100,000 jobs. Now, if we don't address that, we're foolish. This is South Africa's crisis. The second point is this industry is 40% more expensive than their sister industries. 40%. So if there's one industry that really can't complain, this is this industry. And again, we did not say we did not want to discuss increases. We wanted to open the market on the bottom end, which would not have affected a single employee in the industry.
Before I go to the break, so basically the long and short of it is you're not prepared to sign this agreement?
No, definitely not. We're not going to sign it.
That's Chris Papenfus. He's with us this evening. We're discussing workers' issues. Sikhuluma ngodaba lwabasebenzi njengoba kuqhubeka iziteleka ezahlukahlukene ezweni. Sizothatha ikhefu ke kwamanje uma sibuya sizoqhubeka nengxoxo yethu la kwaSikhulume.